Hello, welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker, a real estate investor helping you realize your dream of owning a home or investing in one. Today's show, I am going to be concentrating on why do people lose their houses? Well, people lose their houses for a number of different reasons. One of the most common reasons is because they can't afford to make the payments. Now let's break it down as to the different reasons why people can't afford to make the payments. Number one, they may have lost their job. Number two, underemployment, meaning they lost their job or they changed jobs, but the new job doesn't pay as much money as the first one, and it's not enough to cover the cost of the house, meaning the cost of the mortgage payments and the bills and whatever other incidentals that they have to encounter. Number three, the taxes might increase. That does happen. In cases like this, it really would behoove you to get a new or a good real estate accountant. Number four, sometimes the interest increase, which leads to number five, in that people sometimes don't really apply for the right type of loan. For example, subprime mortgages or adjustable rate mortgages, the interest rate after a certain period of time goes up. It's not like a conventional that stays flat. Or they may have like one of those balloon payment loans where you pay a flat rate for a certain period of time, maybe like for 5-10 years, and then at the end of that there's this big payment that you have to make. It's not like over a 30-year period. And then number six, sometimes the house is too expensive for them to maintain. Give you a perfect example. Well, I'll give you two examples. Number one, a lot of people don't negotiate on the price of the home. And then they realize that after they get into it, that the home is actually more expensive than they thought. Because see, when you buy a home, you have to think more than just how much does it cost to buy it, but you have to think about, okay, well, how much are the expenses going to be? What money, heat, not money, sorry. You want to think about how much does heat cost? How much does water cost? You see, another example is a lot of these lottery winners and people who win houses on HGTV. Great, they won a $1 million house. However, it may cost 50 or let's say $60,000 to actually maintain the house, meaning to keep the grass cut, to pay the bills, and to do various things around the house, maintain the pool. But they only make $30,000 a year. You see what I'm saying? The numbers don't add up. Next, another way that people lose homes is through liens. Liens could be a tax lien, a mechanical lien, a Medicaid lien. 3, bad money management. 4, they're unable to sell the house. Sometimes when people are relocating because of a job, but they can't sell their house, the old house, they end up making 2 house payments. What happens is that sometimes that creates a strain and they end up losing one of the houses. Next, 5, sickness. Some doctors' bills can be quite high, especially for people who have no medical insurance at all. Believe it or not, certain situations, mental illnesses or what have you, like depression, Alzheimer's, and dementia can cause a person to lose their home. They forget that they actually have it, or they're so distressed or distraught that they don't remember that they have a home, or they neglect their home. And by the way, all three of those mental issues that I just mentioned is due to lack of sleep. Most of the time, it's lack of sleep that causes it, not all the time. Another thing is when people are sick, a lot of times they don't speak to their accountant. They don't apply for government programs that will help them pay for their mortgage, or other programs that will help them as far as paying the bills when they incur any type of sickness. Next, natural disasters. A lot of times people who experience hurricanes or typhoons and what have you, they don't always rebuild. Sometimes that wipes out their house completely. And sometimes rebuilding is not really worth it because it just ends up costing them more money than if they were to move someplace else where a house is cheaper. Next, if the house comes on the condemnation list, if it's on the list, you can't sell it or get a loan. You have to pay whatever fees, and you have to pay whatever amount it takes in order to bring that property back up. Next, as mentioned before, there are like government programs, grants, and private entities that are there to help people. The problem is most people don't know that these programs exist, as mentioned above. And it's not just for, sickness or being unemployed or underemployed. It's for, a plethora of different things. Next, people lose their homes because they're not maintaining their home properly. So what happens? They get a code violation. If you get too many code violations, that can be a problem. In certain cities and states, it is. Next, unfortunately, and in my case, I had to deal with a number of con artists. You'll have realtors selling you property that's underwater or condemned or non-existent. You have wholesalers who love to prey on the sick and the elderly. You have banks who won't properly notify you of the different programs that are out there that can help you. They participate in gentrifying a neighborhood. You have the tax assessor's office sometimes improperly putting on having in their records who actually owns property, and they will mail your check, or sorry, not your check. They will mail the tax bill to someone else instead of giving it to you. And then the next thing you know, your property is up on the tax sale. Same thing with the water department. Sometimes they make mistakes as well. Sometimes I will admit that it is a computer glitch, but sometimes, unfortunately, I know better, and I know that is not the case. Okay? It's unfortunate, but yes, that is something that does happen. Next, another common reason why people lose their homes: divorce. When people are in divorce, they're bitter, they're angry, not all the time, but many times. And when neither party pays, guess what? That house can go into foreclosure. Next, death. Some people have no will. Sometimes they have a will, but the people who are supposed to inherit the property, they're dead. Or sometimes the people who are supposed to inherit the property are alive, but they fight over who should get the house. I've heard of families where there's 10 children, the property is left to all 10 children, but one of the children refuses to share with the other 9, but wants someone else to pay the mortgage and wants someone else to pay the taxes. Well, guess what? Nobody pays, so there's a mortgage lien and a tax lien on the house, and so they lose the house. And then lastly, one thing that I try to drive home to everybody who watches or listens to the podcast is that the lack of knowledge of knowing all of the different real estate strategies that are out there is a big cause for losing property. And even if you don't know all of the real estate strategies that are out there, not having a good real estate lawyer who is aware of those strategies can also make you lose your property. And I'm going to give you an example. With prepaid legal, I was in a situation where I was doing a lease purchase on 2 properties. Unfortunately, the property manager that I had ran off to Thailand with my money and the tenant buyer's money, some of it. The leases were ending, and I was struggling to sort of like put things together and figure out how I'm going to carry on and what we're going to do. So the lawyer instructed me. He says, look, I hear your situation. I know what's going on. The best thing for you to do to try to recoup your money and to maintain a fairly decent relationship with the people who are already living there is to turn it from lease purchase to owner financing. I heard about owner financing, but I wasn't like totally familiar or comfortable with the whole concept of it. He sat me down, he explained it to me. We're good to go. So, folks, I just want you to see, I just gave you that list so that you can see that why people lose their homes. Sometimes, yes, it may be their fault. Sometimes life happens. Sometimes the system, sometimes both the government, the banks, and other people in the real estate field unfortunately take advantage. You can read more about that in my book, The Perils of Real Estate Scam Alert. But just be of an open mind. Be careful where you tread and how you do business and who you do business with. Always keep copies and records of everything in order to protect yourself. So, folks, that's all I have for you tonight. And hopefully the information that I've just shared will help you make smart financial moves. Feel free to pass this along. Remember, each one, reach one, teach one, or teach many. Either way. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.